Hi everybody, and welcome to another video. So my name is Annie. If you're new here, I am a potter and just recently self-published author. And yeah, this is just going to be another vlog. Today we're back to regular scheduled programming. So I'm just going to be getting back into doing the vlogs. I've kind of been a little lax on them lately just because of, you know, the kids getting back in school, doing the art shows, things like that. But now that things have kind of started to settle down a little, for at least, you know, a couple weeks, I'm hoping to kind of get back into the routine of making vlogs. So this one is going to be a writing and pottery vlog. I do have one more collection I need to get made as far as pottery goes. So I'll be doing that this week, and then I think a lot of it's actually going to be writing in this vlog too, because I have book 2 that I need to get started on. I also need to write the second to last episode of Melark and the Sorceress, and then I want to try to see if I can't finish my Detective Nora episode as well. So if if you're new to my channel, I have a Patreon where I do a lot of like serial stories. So they're like episodes and they're released in episodes, and they tend to have like little arcs. So for Melark, I usually have like an arc of something. So it's Melark and the Sorceress, but there's also been like Melark and the Flashlight was actually the first episode I wrote. Detective Nora is kind of magic realism, slightly historical. Like I do try to stay pretty accurate with what was happening and stuff in the 1940s, so it kind of has those noir vibes. So she'll have a case and that'll usually be a couple episodes, things like that. So I need to finish those 2 stories, and I would like to get some of my writing done for my novel. So I did just release Eyes of Pewter, which is the first book, but this is going to end up being a duology. I hope I can get all of what needs to happen in the second book. I think I can. But we gotta write the second book. We gotta get that done. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm gonna be working on too. I think I'm about 5,000 words already into that book, so I think that's a pretty good start. I don't know how much of it I'll keep. I, as a writer, am very weird, I guess, in how I do my process. So a lot of times what I'll end up doing is I'll write a couple scenes, right? And kind of figure out which one I like the most and which one I think fits better in the story. And sometimes that means that I rewrite a chapter like 10 times. But I'm going to try really hard to actually get through the whole book first before I go back and rewrite scenes and stuff like that. I also write chronologically. I just can't not, like, it has to be chronological for my brain, especially because I do dual POV. This one actually is probably going to end up with 3 POVs, 2 main ones, and then like I'm just gonna throw in another POV here or there. So it is going to be very much like the first book, where it was mostly just 2 POVs. Actually, first book was just 2 POVs, but for the second book, it's gonna have a little bit more different character perspectives, but it's mostly just gonna be the same 2 characters as the first book. Today, I'm probably going to try to do the 2 episodes first, just because I need to get those out monthly. So I wanna make sure I get those done and edited and stuff by the end of October, and give me enough time to get all that done by the end of October. So that's probably what's going to happen today. Maybe if I have a little bit of extra time, we can get into writing the book. I don't know. Sometimes it depends too, because I also tend to write multiple stories at a time, and sometimes I'm just not feeling a particular story, so I'll have every intention of going into write, like, say, Melark or my main book or something like that, and then just not feel like it's what I want to happen that day, or just don't feel like writing those characters. So sometimes I do switch it around. The plan, however, is that I'm actually going to get the episodes done today, but that does not always happen, I will say. So I have my candle going. I'm gonna go get my tea. I do have a tea that I make every time I write, and it kind of just tricks my brain into thinking it's writing time. I've found with being a multi-passionate artist, having like two art forms that I do, both the pottery and the writing, that my brain has a hard time switching between the two sometimes. So this is kind of a thing that I've done. Like I've realized that if I have like a big stop, like lunch, or you know, like some kind of break or something that like kind of helps me change my brain, you know, it can kind of help me go from pottery to writing or writing to pottery. But the other things I do to kind of trick my brain into being like it's writing time is I usually have like a candle that I use, you know, just kind of have that atmosphere, kind of like my brain's like, oh, it's time to be creative with writing and stuff. And then a lot of times I'll just make myself a tea, and I do have a specific tea that I do just for writing, and so my brain's kind of like, oh, it's writing time, that must be what we need to do right now. And it does help a lot to kind of make those transitions that I have. As far as if I need to transition from writing to pottery, usually that's easier for me because one, I've been doing pottery a lot longer, and two, it's actually a completely different space. So I do have like a pottery studio, and a lot of times just going from like my desk, you know, from writing and doing that to, I'm in my studio, I need to get pottery done, I need to do those things, helps make that transition. So yeah, anyways, I'll stop blabbing and we'll get to writing. So update for the writing, I ended up getting 2,129 words total written. Most of that is for the Melark episode, the story I have about my dragon Melark. There's 2 episodes left of that series before I kind of end season 1. And so I ended up getting most of that episode written. I'm just not sure exactly how I want to end it. Like, I know how I want the end to be the end. I just don't know how exactly I want it to get there. You know, it's like I know how the end needs, but like how do you get to the end is kind of the issue I'm having with being able to finish that episode, but it's like almost done. And that was the majority of the words. It was about like 1,600 and something for that episode. So I'm almost done with it. I just kind of got to tweak that end a little. And then I can send it over to my editor. So I got that done. And then I also wrote about 400 or 500 words in the second book. My second book in the Hollowed Chronicles series. I'm kind of just starting to get into this scene. I know how I want some of the dialogue to go and how I want some of the interactions to go, but I'm not sure exactly, like, again, how I want them to go, like how I want the conversations to get there and stuff. So I think I'm going to stop there for today, just to kind of, you know, just kind of let the ideas kind of percolate in my head on how I want to end that episode of Melark, and then how I want to finish doing this scene as well. It is from Trenton's perspective, so if you haven't read Eyes of Pewter, it's a dual POV, and Trenton is one character, and then my other character is Kalan. And so the first book is mostly from Kalan's perspective. The second book is going to be mostly from Trenton's perspective, but switching with Kalan, like the first book. But anyways, this scene is from his perspective, and he's meeting another character. He's meeting another person that's part of the camp. And I want to make sure I do this scene right. I think there might be I think this character is probably going to end up being a love interest for Trenton. I'm really excited about it. I think it'll be super cute. I was kind of debating whether or not Trenton was even going to have like a love interest. I knew I wanted to do it with Kalan because I kind of started it in the first book, so I knew that was going to be a thing. I just wasn't sure if I was going to have Trenton have one too, but I think this particular character in the hollowed underground camp will work really well with Trenton. I think they have good chemistry. So I want to make sure that I do this scene right, and long story short, I guess not really because I spent too long explaining it, but I just want to make sure I do the scene right, because this is, if I end up going that route, if this ends up being Trenton's love interest, this is basically the meet cute. So, and it's not going to be cute either. It's not going to be like a meet cute. I don't want to get too much into it, but I am kind of really excited about this scene and want to make sure I do it right. So I think I'll just stop there and kind of just let it sit and see what I can think of, see if any new ideas come to me that I can add to it. And yeah, and then I've got to think on how I want to finish the Melark episode as well, because there's only one more episode after this one before I end the season, so I want to make sure I do that as well. You know what I mean. Anyways, so that's what I got done for today for writing, and yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end it. And tomorrow will be a pottery day. I might get to writing if I get all my pottery done, but if not, it's probably just going to be a pottery day. So yeah. So today was kind of a photography day. I made a bit of a mess. So it was a little too cold to start doing pottery in the studio this morning. Everything was kind of frozen over. So I figured, why not get some photos done while we wait? So yeah, here's my little setup. It's actually like in my living room next to one of my big windows. And then I have my kid's toy box holding up the the backgrounds. So yeah, that's kind of what I got done. Hopefully it'll be warm enough to do some pottery later this afternoon after I'm done doing all the photography. But yeah, that's what I started with today. Hi everybody. So I'm in my studio. I did get a little bit of like photography and stuff done because it was just too cold this morning. Like everything froze over, and so kind of had to wait for things to thaw and stuff, and for it to get a little warmer in the studio before I started throwing. But it is warming up. It is getting more of a easier temperature to be able to like throw and stuff, because like with throwing on the wheel and stuff, I need the water to be able to wet the clay, and the colder it is, the harder it is. And I do have like a kettle that heats up the water and stuff, but it's just nice to have it just a little bit warmer because it does cool off after a while and stuff, and then my hands get really cold, and anyways, it just makes it hard to throw for long periods of time. So now that it's warmer, we're going to get to throwing some pottery. I need to make pieces for the newest collection I have coming out, based off of like Book Lovers, as a Book Lovers collection. So I'm going to be throwing mostly mugs, and then probably a little bit of a couple of bump cups and stuff, but I do mostly want mugs for this particular collection. And yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. Ugh. Alright, so we've got a couple bunk cups, got a couple mugs in here, and then I've got a couple more in here, and that's kind of all I can get done before I have to go pick up my kids from the bus stop, so we're just going to stop there. And I'm hoping that Thursday I'll get a little bit more time to throw more pieces. I didn't do a ton today, but that's okay. I was kind of taking a lot of photography and stuff today too, so that's what we got done today. Hi everybody, so it's Friday and this is gonna be the last day of the vlog. Just really quick, I did do some kintsugi yesterday. I didn't record it. I'm kind of teaching myself how to do it, like with the lacquer and all that, like the old school kintsugi way of fixing pottery. And it's kind of messy. You have to wear gloves and stuff, so it's like really hard to video myself or to take pictures and stuff. I'll put the pictures here, or here, wherever they end up, of, you know, the stuff that I did manage to get pictures of. But yeah, I can't really record myself while doing it, especially because I'm still learning the process. I'm using a mug as a kind of practice piece, like the handle cracked in several different places. So I'm kind of just using the kintsugi to repair that. And that's my practice piece. And then there's like this big horsehair plate that I'm going to be doing. It's from a customer who lost his horse, and he doesn't have any horsehair or anything left over for me to be able to make a new piece. So this piece was like a huge plate I threw, and then we applied his horsehair, the horse that he lost, we applied the hair to the plate, kind of like as a memorial piece. Unfortunately, during one of the holiday things last year, one of their holiday parties and stuff, the plate got knocked over off of the table, off the stand, and broke in 3 different pieces. And so I'm kind of doing the mug as like a practice before I actually do like the big plate and do kintsugi on it. And he's really excited that we're trying to fix it for him, you know, and kind of bring it back to life, because he was very distraught when the piece broke, because it is a very important horse to him and stuff. So being able to have that memorial piece and being able to fix it would mean a lot. So I'm working through that. Like I said, I'll put the photos here, but I just can't record that. It's just too much. It's a lot to learn. It's a long process. It takes several weeks between each process to do. Anyways, if you're curious about it and curious about how I do the kintsugi and how I'm learning and all that kind of stuff, I do have posts on my Patreon of the different parts of the process and how long I've been working on it, and you know, where I got the kintsugi kit from, how I'm learning the whole process and stuff. So if you're curious, check out my Patreon. I think you have to be like the lowest tier to be able to see the projects, but yeah, that's just, yeah, you just have to be on the lowest paid tier to be able to see it. But anyways, so today I am going to be editing this video, and I'm going to be doing some writing if I can. It's Dungeons and Dragons night, so I've got friends coming over and we're all gonna play Dungeons and Dragons. We do record the sessions and stuff, and so we put them on my husband's podcast. So if you're curious and you like listening to Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, it's kind of fun. And anyway, so I've got a bunch of people coming over, so it does kind of mean a lot of cleaning. With doing the Ren Fair and stuff, you know, just some things have to get set to the side so that I have the time to be able to do the pottery, the planning for the Ren Fair and all that. So my house is a little messy and needs some work, so we're going to be doing that. I will not record it. Don't worry about it. We're not going to make this video longer than it already is. And then I'm going to see if I can fit in some writing. I have the Melark episode I want to finish for my patrons, and I just want to see if I can get some more words in my novel, the second book that I'm working on as well. I think I'm up to like 7,000 words or something like that. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing today, and I'm not going to be recording any of it, but that's what I'm up to today. This is just my thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.